Analyses Atheism.
Hello and welcome. On we go. Here we have Mr. Brian Cox talking. And I wanted to investigate because I hadn't really checked it out before investigating or analyzing Brian Cox. The fact that he was an atheist. I have a 5-minute video, but before we go there, I found a document finally. The Event Horizon Telescope, NSF's contribution, National Science Foundation. So the NSF contribution to the Event Horizon Telescope is 140, let's just make it bigger here, 140,000 was given in 1955. Measured to today, it's pretty high. 169, or measured to today's, inflation or whatever. 169 million in 2005. 862 million with a 10-year cooperation agreement in 2016, and 28 million, Just think about that. We are investigating the anus of the universe. Not only one anus, but two, while there are people starving on Earth. The atheists are going rampant in figuring out the keys of the universe, while not feeding imagine the money that could be spent on this instead of spending it rather on good things instead of this nonsense. But is there a place for God in science, we ask? And as you can see, I just barely started watching it, so I'll give you my first impressions of it. Let's go full screen, all in, ding, ding, ding.
So I don't believe in a God. Right? However, I don't like the antagonism that occurs or is produced by this question.
Let's just analyze this here. Antagonist. It's like protagonist in a movie is the one you root for. Antagonism. There's a lot of isms around atheism. Antagonism. Merriam-Webster.com. Let's figure it out. I'm zooming in to get the text here. The opposition of a conflicting force, tendency or principle. Actively expressed opposition or hostility. Opposition in psychological action is probably what he assumes of this word. The antagonism of behind this questions that is being asked. Let's go a little back here.
The antagonism that occurs or is produced by this question. I mean, what you can say if you're a cosmologist, what you should say is, so we know that the universe was very hot and dense 13.8 billion years ago.
There's a very beautiful little thing. This is a man who says, we stand at the border of the known, looking into the unknown. But still, he can make a statement like this.
So we know that the universe was very hot and dense 13.8 billion years ago.
13.8 billion years ago, we knew the universe was very hot and dense. Is that a lie? Or is that concrete evidence of that? As a cosmologist. If you're a cosmologist, please comment. Let me know.
We don't know how it got hot and dense. We don't even know, actually, if the...
I don't know how Brian Cox got so hot and dense over these few videos that we watched. That may be something we should fund and create the Hot and Dense project. Why did Brian Cox get so hot with his haircut and dense.
Universe had a beginning in time. Don't know.
We don't
So
know.
that to me is where
Actually,
the science.
You don't know that, but you know it was hot and dense. Okay.
Science starts for me with I don't know.
But getting
the
more to
answer
the point of that question.
So I'm not going. So
You had a bit of an argument with
tend to-
argument with famous atheist Russell Brand, who's also a comic, as we know. But you said to
No,
him,
Russell's not an atheist. Russell's
he's not.
strongly believes in.
Is that right? Okay,
God
well,
of
I got that wrong. I'm sorry. You said to him that science.
Russell Brand. I wouldn't trust him as far as I would throw him, but I could probably throw him pretty far, if I'm being honest. I'm not a small man. Just saying.
Science doesn't rule out the existence of a creator.
No, but in the sense that I just said, that I think we're overstepping the mark. I do not believe there's any evidence for a creator. However,
Listen to the wording. I do not believe there is any evidence for a creator. Now we're talking about belief. Not about the evidence. It's the belief in the evidence. It's a different thing.
isn't the point is that the correct thing to say is we don't even know whether the universe had a beginning. I don't even know whether it was eternal. Nobody does. So that was the point I was making. I think we're stepping into an area where we don't really need to be.
Yeah, and I think a point, and as scientists, we need to be humble about the fact that we don't know everything. And we shouldn't pretend to know anything on a lot of questions because climate change is so incredibly complex. The marine system is all these different inputs and circulations and different drivers. And so, we get to the limit of our knowledge. And I think really what you're trying to say is we need to be careful not to go beyond what we know.
The great Richard Feynman, the great Nobel Prize winner, it's a beautiful quote where he says that he says, "What is the meaning of it all?" Right? And he says, "In the end, we have to admit that we do not know. But in admitting that, we may have found the open channel." That's the key to science. We don't know.
David?
Thank you so much for this program. The scientists don't know. Ha! We got him. But they're getting a lot of funding for knowing, right?
What do you think?
So I completely agree with all of those comments, but there's obviously lots of, if you like, mysticism that helps people understand their unexplained observations. Science is one way that we use for trying to explain and gather evidence to help understand a range of, if you like, previously unexplained phenomena. Others in the past and some presently also use their own observations and then faith to help them explain that. I think those are different perspectives. None is better or worse than the others, but we need to be careful that if we want to understand natural phenomena, I think what we have to think about is how can we use the evidence that Emma talked about before to make policy decisions. I would much rather base those on well-founded, well-collected evidence than faith.
Fair enough. Kirsten, what do you think? It's an interesting question.
What? Like people are using words to just use words. Nobody is precise in what they have to say. And the internet is like a fire hydrant of information. And people are getting caught up in so many rabbit holes, leading them out into mazes that have no exit. And I feel atheism is one of those mazes you can put your consciousness through. In order to get out of that, you have to elevate. You have to lift your consciousness up to a higher intelligence. Going into this either science or God. It's like, no. It's all part of the same plan. God is infusing everything around us. It's not a sky daddy It's a stupid straw man argument from a stupid person. And there are a lot of them out there. And the difference is now that the internet has given every fool keyboards and user accounts, like myself, complete moron. I have no idea. But at least I can be able to learn by looking at the fallacies, looking at the dishonesty, looking at these constant soup of words in trying to find some way out of it. Unify. Information is condensed, like in a black hole, and we are merely particles floating on the event horizon, trying to escape into the universe. But there's a light. There's a light at the end of the wormhole tunnel. And this light is goodness, kindness, that brings about the happier states of being. And we are a being, not a doing. We be. And the most wisest people I've ever met, the wisest people I've ever met, or I've ever listened to, or I've ever read, they point out to the fact, if you go for lust, it leads to delusion. So aim for bliss. God is bliss. It may seem stupid, but if you conceptually grasp it with your conceptual tools, then you will understand that when you fast, when you let go of wanting and desiring, when you get out of the dopamine recepting, overusing the dopamine receptors, overusing the sexual desire receptors, not deceptors. But that's a deceptor. Yeah, it's a cool name. Sexual desire deceptor instead of receptor. You can tune your consciousness to go higher up the spine. And the higher you go, the more enlightened you become. The lower you go, the more hungry and horny you become. Simple. Simple.
Do you think there is some sort of creative being that exists beyond science?
I'm going to give you my favourite answer to give to any science question if I don't know. I don't know. I'm with you, Brian. We don't know. It's like Brian says, I'm going to say there's null evidence. Not some, null.
There's also a pattern that I've seen. We have teachers who aren't teaching based on knowledge, because they are teaching based on repeating. And then we have something spawning out of that, which is this school we call repeating. And when you're young and you're trying to be cool, and you're always trying to repeat lines that you saw on TV or in a movie, or trying to be your most coolest self that you've seen out there. And when you don't hold knowledge, because knowledge is like tattooing on water, there's a passing stream, and you're trying to hold the memory. It's like when you wake up in the morning and you move your body, and suddenly the dream that you had just evaporates. But I can tell you, like, the farther you go in life, the longer you live, the easier it becomes to hold information. Unless you are constantly working on calcifying your being with the products that you consume. That's why fasting is such a beautiful, beautiful way of getting out of your habits. Because you're not going to die if you fast. But your ego is going to tell you you're going to die if you don't eat. And that's going to create stress. And this ego within is also talking to you when you're falling asleep and you are going through a bad thing and you haven't resolved, you haven't forgiven. Then this thing is giving you visions and thoughts and reinterpreting a fight that you had, and you're trying to win that fight in your mind while you're going to sleep. But the art of fasting and the art of meditating without going for the thing that wants you to go for the thing, then you can relax and you can be. And the wisest men, like I said earlier, they were saying God is bliss and God is Om and Amen. Om. God is the present moment. And it's not just you. It is expanding, expanding, expanding. It's big, and it's moving, and it's alive, and it contains many, infinite amounts of elements. And it's so beautiful when you grasp that, and you meditate in that. But if you're always going through this linear way of understanding the world, you're always going to be caught up in some nonsense.
It's just
There's a very quick, serious point I'd like to make.
And I said that because I saw that in her. You know, instead of giving her answer based on her knowledge, she just repeated what this guy, this Brian Cox guy, he is this holder of knowledge. Like he said in an earlier video, I don't know, I get it. This thing. And this is the thing that you can aim to be. Like, try to get it. Try to understand it. Then you can become a better individual. Better than you were yesterday, not better than Brian Cox. Don't measure yourself up against others. Just try to be a little bit better than you were yesterday. Because the present moment is God. And when you pray, you're obeying towards becoming the present moment. And that is your gateway to communicate with this intelligent being that is creating it all as we go.
Which is that I remember once I was giving a talk to schools in London, and London is a very, very diverse population of many people, of many faiths and none. Right? And I was asked that question: is it possible to be a scientist and believe in God? And I was taken back actually, and so I said yes. And I was going to have some common caveat, like you said, the caveats there, but I got a round of applause, and I thought this is important, because the last thing someone like we should do is close off that possibility of being a scientist because someone has...
Well, I mean, Professor Hanbury Brown, who built the interferometer up in Parkes, I think, he believed in God. I grew up with him. I know that.
There are. So the worst thing to do would be for a room full of students to say, well, you can't be a scientist because you believe this thing or that thing or the other. Yeah. That would be a terrible thing to do.
Got time for quick.
I thought that was a very beautiful, honest reply. It's beautiful, and it's exactly the way it should be. You shouldn't close one door to open another. It's you can have both doors open. You can be open instead of closed-minded. Open source instead of closed source. You know? It's a different way of seeing the world. And the more open you become, the more wiser, more intelligence you can become. The more closed off you are, whether it's in religion or in science or in poetry or alcoholism or whatever, close you are, the harder it is to open up.
I mean, if we say God, it's everybody would imagine something different, I suppose, and we have to realize that it's probably not sort of the little translation of the Bible that the earth was created in 7 days and all the rest of that. Certainly from the scientific perspective, that would be hard to adopt. But going back further in time and with some of the unknown questions that are still confronting us, so I think...
Like when you confronted with a page like he's speaking of, that's speaking about the beginning of the universe, beginning of this creation. What's a day? Is it an Earth day? Their guru Einstein talks about time being relative, and that's what Interstellar is about. You know, he doesn't grow old while his daughter dies. Or not dies. I'm not going to spoil the movie. You gotta see it. It's cool. Has an amazing Hans Zimmer score that you can meditate with. I recommend that. But what's time? What's a day before the day was created? What's the God's day? And why do we have 7 days a week? Why is 365 divided by 13 28 days? And why is 4 times 7 28? Why are we following this calendar that we are believed to have following? The Gregorian calendar, the Chinese calendar, the Jewish calendar, the Christian calendar. Where does this come? Why are there church bells ringing in the hour in some cities? What's time really? Why is it written on one of the first dollars, time is money? Let me see. Dollar. Time is money. See if the images hold. Where was it? Time is money. Wasn't it the first coin or something? Coin. Saw it on a coin. Yeah, this one. This one. Just think about this. See it. Why do we believe that we have to spend our time to get money? Is that from God? Or is that from something else? Is it said in the Bible or in any religious text, time created banks, and the banking people decided upon how much money was worth, and the Federal Reserve was created? Like, we are misguided, and we have been misguided for a long, long time. It's centuries, aeons, millennia, I don't know how long. But the evil forces in the world, they are winning, sadly. They are a little bit better at this.
I think we have to be a little bit open-minded about what God is to people and what it could be.
Yeah. It's a very nice way to end, to be honest. But thank you so much for watching. I hope this video benefited you in your present moment, whenever you're watching this. Be careful of the wolf in sheep's clothing. He was mentioned in this video. One from the Fabian Society. The brand. Yes, yes. The Pied Piper. You're being let down, let out of town, and you can't follow the wrong Pied Piper. But let's see if the world can be changed in some way. But I believe in you, and I believe in God above. And God believes in you, I think, too. Thank you so much. Comment, subscribe, like, go all in. Let's make this work. Thank you so.
Analyses Atheism.